else more to say. Everything that I have, I'll give. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game, make it to the end. I wanna bring it back again. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. All the mistakes I made, now I can change my fate. No one can take this heart away. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game and make it to the end. I'm gonna bring it back again. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way. Find another way to fight another day. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. You rise out the power to change the colors in your mind. Kicks and stones will never change. I'll be so strict and blind. The more we learn, the less we lose. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies. We can drown the sea with freedom voices. If
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the iRacing Countdown to Green, refreshed by Coca-Cola. We are live from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway in Homestead, Florida, for the second race, the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season. James Pike here, and a warm welcome to those of you watching on iRacing's platforms and eNASCAR.com. Before we talk about tonight's race at Homestead-Miami, let's take a quick look back at what happened at our season opener 2 weeks ago on the high banks of the World Center of Racing.
And the field will go into the hands of 2311's Mitchell DeYoung, a pace car. It started with about 4 cars smacking the outside wall. They scattered at a 2. No caution, though. We stay green. And now to the race lead goes the 97 to Clampett with his William Byron Esports teammate of Nick Ottinger. They are sitting first and second with 21 to go. 10 to Machida Bolin got a little bit of the fence. They're going to pack in. Oh, and there's contact. Clampett's into the outside wall. A huge one. And on his own, Michael Conti wins the season opener at Daytona for career win 11.
So Michael Conti gets the victory in the season opener at Daytona. There's a lot that we can talk about that race. So let's bring in, one more time, our panel of drivers, Michael Guerrilli, Brandon Cattell, and Chris Overland, to discuss what happened 2 Tuesday nights ago. Michael, I'll start with you. When you look back at what happened at Daytona in the season opener, what stands out to you the most?
Well, James, while the new eNASCAR Coca-Cola season may be fresh with new drivers and new teams, the veterans of the series made their presence felt on the high banks of Daytona International Speedway. Last week, we saw the likes of Conti, Zielinski, Clampett, Leahy, all these household names that we're accustomed to up at the front of the field here in the NASCAR Coca-Cola Series. These guys were up front, getting in the mix for the win last week, and while it did pan out for some of those, like Conti, where we saw him just take home the win right there, and some of those that we saw earlier on in the race get taken out, like Malik Ray, Zach Novak, all those guys, veteran presence was felt throughout the field, and they were definitely making their way to the front at Daytona.
You look back at the former winners at Daytona, there's a lot of correlation between drivers who win that race and drivers who eventually become champions of the series. So no surprise in that regard to see the veterans do well. Chris Overland, what about you? What stuck out to you the most?
Well, it's pretty obvious that at Daytona and at Talladega, at these plate tracks, you definitely need to work with your teammates. We saw it really well with the William Byron Esports team and not so well with the JTG Racing team, who got into each other going onto pit road. That was a big story. Obviously, it's a different animal tonight here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, but last week, Daytona, you had to have teammates when it mattered, and some people did it right, some people didn't.
It almost worked out for Nick Ottinger and Logan Clampett. Brandon Cattell, surely you've got some thoughts on this. What jumped out to your eye?
Everybody is aggressive early. Everybody is getting on it. They want to get that win in the bag. They're racing like it's the last race of the season already, and it's just going to pick up from this race on tonight, boys. This is going to be wild. Wild to watch. It's going to be great.
Underscores the competitiveness of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season. Now, Michael Conti got the victory 2 Tuesday nights ago, and between his victory at Daytona and tonight's race at Homestead, we got a chance to catch up with the 2014 Series champion. Here's more on Michael Conti.
What really forced our hand was I did some things to the computer over the off season to clean it up and just make sure I wasn't going to have any issues for Daytona. And inadvertently, we tweaked something in the graphics settings to where I could only see 11 cars in the track at one time. So when I'm all the way in the back sitting in 38th, I can't see anything in front of like 26th or 27th at that point. And when the cars are popping onto the screen as I get closer to the pack, I just see puffs of smoke. So at that point, I'm like, well, I can't see what's happening up front anyway, so if we're going to wreck, I guess I'd rather see the wreck I'm running into than be all the way in the back like I am and have absolutely no clue what's going on. So because of that, we made our way to the front and we started positioning ourselves to get to the end of the race and be in a good spot there on the last green flag run. And I don't think we would have done that if it weren't for the graphics issues. I think from a preparation standpoint, everything is still status quo for us. We're still going to put in just as much effort. We're still going to put the time in to find speed to run up front. But I think for us and our team personally, setting ourselves apart from Brad and the rest of the guys we work with, I think we can go out on a limb a little bit more with maybe some things we do to the setup before the race, maybe some things that aren't tried and proven, that are more experimental. We can run that, and if it works out, great. That's an added bonus at that point. But if it doesn't work out and we have a mediocre run because of it, it's not going to cripple us, and it's not going to put us in that bad a spot where we would need to point our way in or do something extra special the next race to make up for it. Outside of the iRacing stuff, I lead a pretty simple, somewhat boring life, but I'm happy with it and I'm content with it. So what I do when I'm not iRacing is I am a parts specialist for Hendrick BMW down here in Charlotte. I've worked for Hendrick for almost 5 years now. As soon as I got down here from Jersey back in 2016, I immediately applied to the Hendrick Automotive Group because I'd always followed the motorsports division in NASCAR and knew how great of a company it was. So I wanted to work there and move myself up and make a career out of it, which I've done. And I've had many different roles over the years. I've worked in a business development center as a trainer and then a manager. I've been a service advisor for BMW, and now I'm in parts, which I'm pretty happy with. It's a good gig, but it's definitely it's taxing hours wise. I work about 45-46 hours a week with my day job. We're dealing with customers all day. We're dealing with cars. We're dealing with problem cases. So it's not a job where I just sit there and mindlessly do things for 8-9 hours. I mean, it's always thinking, always problem solving. So it's definitely stressful, but I think any job is really. It's just adulting. It's how it goes. But it definitely makes it harder to focus on the eNASCAR stuff because I'm putting in so much time into my day job. And I've always, even since I started in 2012, I've always had to split my time between sim racing and either school or work. I've never been able to solely focus on sim racing. And I've always wondered how that would affect my performance if I could just focus on sim racing. But on the flip side, sometimes I find that going to work and getting my mind off of racing actually allows me to do better when I get back on the computer and try to put my head down and make the car faster or get better at a track or things like that. So definitely a very busy life, not too much free time at this point, especially since we're full swing with the racing season, but definitely happy with where I'm at.
Hi, I'm Michael Conti, driver of the number 5 4Front Chevy, and you're watching iRacing Live.
Don't put the mic down.
Don't drop it.
That was perfect.
That was excellent until the end.
There's those pictures you see on your screen of Michael and his late mother, Gina, who lost to battle with cancer a few years ago. So Michael always racing for his mom, makes it a very big part of his social media posts that you see on Twitter and the various platforms he's on. But we move now from Michael Conti to learn a little bit more about the cars that these drivers are going to compete in throughout the season. It's time for our first iRacing Tech Setter segment of the year. And we turn now to Michael Guerrilla, who will teach us a little bit more about tires and angles, and specifically camber.
Yeah, James, and really the question is, what is camber? Camber is the angle of the tire and wheel that is relative to a level surface, and this is one of the things that I initially test when I'm building a setup on iRacing. How can you change camber? Well, it's adjusted by changing the angle at which you lean the tire with negative and positive camber. Here's a visual of how this works at the end of the day. Negative camber is where the top of the tire leans in towards the center of the car, as you're seeing on your screen. This is usually done on the right side tires on an oval track. Positive camber, being the opposite of negative, angles the top of the tire away from the center of the car, giving that most of this would be on the left side of the car to help adjust that in the corner. Now, what does camber really do? We can adjust camber, but what does it change? Changing the camber can help the cornering ability of the car, controls the overall tire wear, and helps provide better handling characteristics over the course of a race run. Having negative camber on the right side tires allows for a better contact patch between the tire and track surface. This is because the physical loads on the car at speed force the chassis to roll over to the right side of the car and gives basically more of a roll to the right front. On the other side, you'll find positive camber. Positive camber is usually on the left side tires to help counteract that body roll that I just mentioned. It also helps the car corner consistently at speed. And ideally, the tire wear and temperatures from inside out should even to be maximizing camber effectively. Now that we understand what camber is and how it changes, where do you actually find it on the iRacing setup page? Let's get into that. Once you're on the chassis tab of a setup, look towards the bottom of each of the tires and you will find the camber settings highlighted on your screen. Here in iRacing, you can adjust the camber down to the 10th of a degree, ranging from positive 6 degrees to negative 6 degrees of total camber. Now on that bottom part there, you see the yellow bars seen on the screen on those values. Those are indicating that you're reaching the limit of camber based on the iRacing tech that they have in the sim. So be careful of that when you're changing your settings. One other thing to consider is that when you're changing these values on your screen, these are changing only the static values of camber, which means this is only changed when the car is stationary. So be careful of that because these will change when at speed, especially tonight at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Tire wear versus grip, always the age-old battle with camber. We've learned some about these cars. Let's learn more about the track, and we turn to the man who finished runner-up in the most recent eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series event here back in the fall. Chris Overland, teach us a little bit about Homestead-Miami.
Well, you know me, James, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. But here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway in Miami-Dade County, we've got a 1.5 mile speedway. It's 18 degrees of banking in the bottom, 20 degrees of banking up top. It's progressively banked, really makes for some exciting racing. I've been to a couple of races here in real life, and oh my goodness, it is a blast. This track opened in 1995, which makes it older than Brandon, Michael, and myself, which is insane. And the track was actually scanned before the iRacing service was launched to the public, so this track has been around since the very beginning.
Lots to look forward to in tonight's race. And before we get to the race, it's time to find out which drivers our panel of drivers are picking. Last week, it was a pretty good week for Michael Guerrilla and Chris Overland, whose picks both finished in the top 10.
I don't want to talk about my week there, Jay.
Yeah, it wasn't a great week for you, Brandon. So you come into tonight with 1 point. You'll go first in the picks, and you can try and make it up. Who are you picking for victory tonight?
Well, I was walking around the eNASCAR garage area this week, and I talked to Boyd Hogan. He was the crew chief of Jake Nichols, and he said, "Watch my boy tonight." He said he's going to qualify good, and he's going to run up front. He's going to get the job done. And you know what? I believe in Jake Nichols. He was a teammate of mine before in the past, and you know what? He's going to get the job done tonight at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Chris Overland, do you agree or do you disagree?
We have the same pick.
Oh, no.
We have the same pick. I'm picking Jake Nichols. And I've got no reason for it other than the last 2 weeks in the NASCAR Cup Series, we've had first-time winners. And I felt like rolling the dice. I was picking Jake. I'm confident in Jake. I think that he can get the job done. The guys at Mode Motorsports know what they're doing. We have the same pick. At least you can't catch me.
Are we going 3 for 3, Michael?
I'm definitely not going down the path those two are, but thank you guys for giving me the whole rest of the field to choose from. Now I got 39 drivers instead of 38. But my pick for here has a stellar record here at Homestead. He's got 5 starts here, and in those 5 starts, he's only finished outside the top 5 one singular time. And in that span of races, he's led 40% of the laps he's run at the track, and he's won twice. That driver is none other than Ryan Loser from XSET Gaming. And he would go from heartbreak last year where he lost the championship in a tough wreck at the end of the race to locking himself in the playoffs here tonight.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely a good pick.
Yep. Got lots of fun to find out over the course of the next few hours. But Jake Nichols, Ryan Luja. We are going to Miami in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere because we are going to come back on the other side of this break with the second race of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season. That concludes tonight's iRacing Countdown to Green, refreshed by Coca-Cola. We'll see you in just a few moments for all the action from Homestead-Miami.
This Coca-Cola Zero Sugar tastes mighty delicious.
Come on, buddy.
But
If you keep lying like this, you'll be a puppet forever.
it's the honest truth.
You're right. It's delicious.
I never lie.
I am huge, a giant in every way. I am the sound of fury and the sweet smell of victory. I am the return of all the things you love about this amazing sport. Something that changes you from the very first lap. I am where seeing becomes believing, and believers know it is the return of a new season. I am NASCAR.
This is our series, where the stakes are always higher, where virtual meets reality. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Yeah, look at my shine with the glow. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way at the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like wrong. Time's right, and I know the seats walking in the limelight. Promise you won't wanna watch like a sci-fi. My guys are high risers, high tide. Might drown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited, so you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
The road to $300,000 stays in the Sunshine State for week 2, where tonight from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 2 of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Well, happy to have you with us on the iRacing Esports Network, where, as always, alongside Tim Terry, my name is Evan Pasocco. And Tim, we have raced many a times here at Homestead in the 11-year-plus now history of this series, but we have never seen it as early on the calendar as week number 2. Of course, 1 week removed from Michael Conti winning our Daytona opener and being the first driver locked into the playoffs.
I'm excited for Homestead-Miami Speedway, Evan. It's one of those racetracks you just circle on the calendar because it's so fun to watch from our vantage point because there's pit strategy, there's some great racing, and there's been some iconic moments in this series. I can't wait to get this thing kicked off.
Iconic moments. So many champions have been crowned here over the last several years, all the way through last year. Can't forget that one, of course. And, you know, it is one of the best, I think, of the intermediate racetracks on the calendar, Tim. It's unlike anything else we'll see. It's unlike a Vegas. It's unlike an Atlanta, right? I mean, it really does stand in its own regard.
You're going to see some great racing, some 2-wide racing, 3-wide racing. Restarts are going to be phenomenal if we do have some restarts early, because this place lends himself to some green flag racing and some pit strategy. This is going to be fun over 134 laps.
And we're almost ready to get going. So let's go trackside, hand things off to tonight's Grand Marshal. It's Buffalo Bills running back Antonio Williams for the most famous words in motorsports.
iRacers, I'm excited to be the Grand Marshal here today. I'm excited to watch you guys race. And finally, drivers, start your engines!
Fire it up, driver. Let's go.
Fire it up.
Driver,
Let's
go ahead.
rock
Shake
and roll.
and bake.
Make sure you check those gates. Working okay.
Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid on pole for the 11th time in his career. The 32 of Keegan Leahy going to bring us to the green flag this evening alongside Bobby Zelensky on the outside of the front row. Daytona pole sitter and teammate to Leahy, Mitchell DeYoung. Tim going to roll from third alongside Chris Shearbird in the number 4 spot. Ray Alfala, Ashton Crowder, your top 6.
Yeah, you look through the next 6. Ryan Luza, he's won here a couple of times before. Garrett Lowe to his outside. You got Graham Bolin, Corey Vincent in the next row, and Jake Nichols and Taylor Hirsch looking to make something happen here tonight.
Just behind them, John Gorlinski, Zach Novak going to double up. That'll be row number 7. Jimmy Mullis and Dylan Duvall, 15th and 16th spot. Ahead of Casey Kerwin in 17th and Blade Witt, P18.
Looking down the list, you got Zach Nichols and Nick Ottinger going to roll from position number 20, about halfway through the field. Derek Justice and Vicente Salas, and the next row, Isaac Gahn, Logan Clampett rolling out in 23-24.
Bob Bryant will find himself 25th spot alongside the number 6 and 8th in line. Steven Wilson and Alan Bowes with Michael Conti and Garrett Maines, your top 30.
Brad Davies, Michael Guest is your next row with Malik Ray and Blake Reynolds. Jake Matheson, podium finish at Daytona, and Femi Ola at 36th.
All the way at the back, row number 19 to Brian Schoenberg and Kane Cook. Row 20 to Ryan Doucette and Matt Busa, 39th to 40th position. That is a look top to bottom at your Coca-Cola starting grid here tonight from Homestead. Cars on track, getting ready to roll for tonight's 200-mile contest. Of course, a lot of previous Homestead race winners in the field here this evening. Of course, Chris Shearburn started towards the front, winner of last year's season finale, but big names, the likes of Luza, Novak, Alfala, and Devore Tim have all found victory lane here at Homestead in the past.
And this track lends itself to some great racing, so we're going to see that right off the hop when we do go. And we got some drivers with some track position. You look back behind that pace car, you got a whole lot of VRS on a couple of those hoods on that front row. Going to try to take it away for that sponsor and try to bring it to victory lane.
The 2311's been doing a great job, Tim. And speaking about the top spot, Keegan Leahy's on the pole tonight. You're chatting with him now.
Yeah, let's chat with Keegan Leahy, driver the number 32 for 2311 Racing. Keegan, track position going to be key here tonight. You got the best one. What's the outlook from that number 32?
Yeah, I'm really happy to get pole because clean air matters a lot. We have quite a bit of dirty air now behind other cars, and there's draft too, but running behind someone else really hurts your tires, so I'm happy to get this front position. Not so confident in the race pace, so hopefully this clean air makes the difference.
You're a weather guy. You like forecasts. Let's peer into the future here. Do we expect a long green flag run, couple of green flag pit stops? What are you anticipating today?
I think the field will get pretty strung out after a few laps. As long as there's not a big crash at the very start, we'll probably settle into a long green flag run, but who knows what happens at the end of these races. As soon as you get a caution, then laps, like 20 or 30 laps to go, just chaos.
Well, we wish you all the best tonight. Go get him.
Thanks, Tim.
That's Keegan Leahy, driver the number 32 from Halifax, Nova Scotia. And Evan, he mentioned in clean air, he's got the best track position up in front. He'll roll from P1.
Bobby Zelensky, who starts alongside him, who, by the way, not teammates. Remember, that's a Letard Esports Chevy alongside, said a very similar thing. He said that he was pretty happy that they got the good track position up front. Tim, not certain how well the race pace is going to be for the 83, so at least for the VRS entries up front, they're hoping that track position can help them out here this evening. We're also going to be taking a look on board with most of the drivers in the field here this evening. We'll be rolling through the field all night long, giving you the unique perspectives from behind the wheel. Tim, we get set for 134 laps. Tell us about tonight's ASUS race analysis.
Well, this is 134 laps here tonight. It's a great pace at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, and we roll through pit road speeds 50 miles an hour. The pit lane delta from start to finish, if you get a drive-through, it's about 22 seconds. 5 tire sets available, plenty of tires to use here tonight. Fuel windows 58 to 62 laps, might go a couple of more, but we'll probably see these guys undercut because of the tires. And your 2020 winner, we had 2 races here, Evan. One was Ryan Luza in the spring, the other one, Chris Shearburn, and Chris Shearburn's got some great track position to start off. He'll roll off forward.
From the outside of that number 2 row, so very big storylines for all the drivers amongst those front couple of rows. Ray Alfala, a 2-time Homestead winner from 2015 and 2018, finds himself in the number 5 spot. So they've all got a real good look. And there's a look at our driver wall. So we'll be looking into with these drivers all night long, giving you the unique perspective from behind the virtual wheel here tonight for the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. Not many times have we come into a second race, in fact, never in a season and already known one of the drivers who wants to fight for the championship. And that is your Daytona winner from 1 week ago, Michael Conti. With everybody else, a lot on the line here this evening. 13 more opportunities in this regular season to find a spot in the playoffs. The pace car going to dive down it in this time. We're happy you're spending your Tuesday night with us on the iRacing Esports Network. Let's go racing from Homestead. First lap led, top of the board will go to Leahy. The fight will be for third. Shearburn on the inside of DeYoung. He'll have the advantage in 1, Tim. And if the 23 DoorDash Toyota stuck up there could be tough, here comes Alfala now also looking to the inside.
And a little bit of a bobble off of corner number 2 for the 36 of Shearburn. He's got the battle in behind him that you mentioned, the 23 of DeYoung to the upside, and Ray Alfala down to the low side as they come up out of corner number 4 to complete lap number 2. Give that spot, at least at this point, to DeYoung, but he's got a battle on his hands. And oh, by the way, here comes Ryan Luz in this little fray too.
Yeah, we talked about the previous race winners here. Luz with a lot of success as well. A 2017 and 2020 race winner here from Miami-Dade County. A lot of 2-3 wide, though, further back the field there. There's a peek to the inside about the number 38 machine. That's Casey Kerwin looking to the bottom. Last time by, scored in 19th spot. Kind of mid-pack right now, 2 seconds off for the race leaders. When they're more tightly bunched together than most of them were for the actual drop of the green flag. A lot of cars on top of each other here in the midfield.
You see the 37 of Derek Justice to the inside as well, about mid-pack, trying to pick up a couple of spots and maybe just trying to find a place to ride right now. You see up in front of those drivers, it's kind of calmer, a little bit calmer. You see Novak going to the inside there off the picture and just trying to find their footing and try to find a way around here and get some laps in. We've seen a lot of green flag racing here in the past at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, and we're starting to get that feel, albeit it's still early, Evan, only 5 laps into this round number 2.
It's good if you can get through those first, few laps and kind of get your footing underneath yourself, because you're right. This has been a race historically that has given us real good looks at strategy, and I think that the way the fuel window matches up with today's race distance could keep us in store for an entertaining one as well. Here's the gap out the front of the field. Keegan Leahy started up front. He's been on cruise control since lap 5 in the books. His advantage already to 0.7 of a second, but up to P2 is Chris Shearburn, able to get around both Mitchell DeYoung. We saw that. And your second place starter, Bobby Zelensky, with some issues. Tim, he's dropped out of the battle up front here. So Shearburn assuming P2. We'll see if he's got anything with that 32 up front.
You're seeing some great performances by 2311 Racing and Letarte Esports, and you mentioned Zelensky having some issues there and falling back in the pack, but Chris Shearburn having a great run. Keegan Leahy up there having a great run. His teammate not too far behind in DeYoung, so 2 of those 2311 cars sitting up in the top 5 early. Great qualifying efforts, but Keegan mentioned that buzzword I think we're going to hear all night long, or buzzwords, in clean air, and he's got it up there. Shearburn's got a little bit, albeit the 32 car pulling away a little bit, getting a little bit of clean air onto that number 36. And these guys up here have found their place, they found their rhythm, and they are working around this racetrack. And Keegan was concerned about race pace, Evan. It looks pretty good from this vantage point.
Remember, that was what we were talking about on the grid. Leahy and both Zelensky discussing that they weren't really sure what they had race pace-wise, but they were hoping that the way that this track races, track position was going to help them, and it seems like it is helping Leahy for the time being. There's a look back at Zach Novak, started 14th up to the number 8 position right now. Pretty calm towards the back half of the top 10. You see Taylor Hurst in the 33 up the road. A little bit further up, Corey Vincent rides in the number 6 spot. So this part of the field, you still only got about 2-3 car lengths apiece in between each battle, but at least they're single file. The mid-pack's still a lot more scrappy than what your top 10 are doing right now.
And Novak was able to pick up some positions early in this one. And you look at those guys that are around him right now. Guys like Corey Vincent, Taylor Hurst, Jake Nichols. They picked up 3 or 4 positions off the start of this race. So they were able to use the start of this one to their advantage as you ride on board, going down the front straightaway with Zach Novak, and see what he has in front of him.
But 3 drivers from the front of the field, Zelensky, Alfala, and Bolin, dropped to the back early in this one. And if you want to see what it's like to drive a NASCAR Cup Series car around the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, you can do so with iRacing, because with iRacing, every day is race day. For more information on how to start your sim racing career, log on to iRacing.com for more information. As an onboard look there just up the road, Garrett Lowe's going to drop a spot. Corey Vincent, the Coke Zero Chevy, down and through on the inside. That'll be a swap out for positions number 5 and 6. So Lowe picked up a handful of spots off of the get-go, drops 1. Still a +2 overall, Tim. And you can already see early in the run, we're only 12 laps in, but look at that Nadia Novak. He's already working a different groove. Higher up in 1 and 2 is going to translate that speed to a big run down the back straightaway. Will be first to work the bottom this time, but it's his. A well-executed pass there on Taylor Hurst for a spot inside of the top 10.
And if memory serves me correctly, Zach Novak's got some history at this racetrack. As we look at Blade Witt, and he may have had a mechanical failure on this one, Evan, and a tough way to leave this race early. And there it is right there, a little bit of smoke trailing.
Wow, and higher temperatures racing in South Florida. Track temp's 98 degrees, the outside temp only 74, but lost the engine on that one. Curious if he had gotten maybe a little bit of damage on the restart, and that's really where you can see those engine temps spike without that clean air being able to get through the front of the race car without, just pushing somebody and blowing up, you would think, in a conventional way. There's some 3 wide, though, across the start-finish line. The driver to the very inside and making moves. How about that? The 66, I believe, way down on the inside, making the passes there. So that is a handful of spots gained for Blake Reynolds, the McLaren Shadow driver. Picked up a couple of spots. He is 6 laps down, Tim, trying to make up some positions. So is the other driver on the inside of this 3 wide, the 51 of Ray Alfala. 6 laps down for his Rowdy Energy Toyota. So they are trying to fight their way through the field on fresh tires, fresh off of a pit stop, and try to make up for lost ground. But that's a tough blow for about a half a dozen drivers there.
The good news is if it's going to happen, early is the place to have it happen and time to have it happen, but 6 laps is a long way to make up in only 134 laps around this racetrack. But you better believe if you want somebody to try to do it, a guy like Ray Alfala, Graham Boland is in that mix as well. They would be the ones to take care of that. But we're going to see this throughout the night as well when we do see those green flag pit stops, Evan, those tires, guys cutting through the field. And speaking about this, how about this change up in front? Ryan Lewis at a second, and it's going to be Chris Shearburn back to position number 3. We'll see what Ryan Lewis is going to do. These were our 2 winners from last year at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, and they're going to chase down Keegan Leahy now in front of this field.
Yeah, Shearburn does it off to get a ton of credit for that win in the finale, Tim. Of course, the big storyline was the championship coming out of the end of last year, but Shearburn putting that car in victory lane and getting himself into victory lane for the first time, becoming the 54th different race winner in series history. He's got Netflix original The Crew on board that entry here this week, and both he and Lewis, I think, with a real good opportunity, especially if this thing goes green strategy-wise, to be in the mix and be able to fight for the win. Again, those are lapped cars with fresher tires making those moves, so Shearburn hasn't lost any positions here. He is still 3rd, but Luza has, I would say, Tim, pretty comfortably been able to walk away just a little bit. That next car up the road now is indeed Luza in 2nd. We'll watch those intervals. They're not gaining a ton on Leahy up front, but at least in a battle between 2nd and 3rd, Luza better at the moment.
Yeah, looking at this battle right up in front of him, and you see those cars coming in the small little mirror on the left-hand side, trying to get through on those fresh tires while he tries to reel in or keep tabs with that 2nd-place driver of Lewis. And we go through this field, and there's some drivers that are on the move, including the number 79, as we continue to work through here. And Blade Witt, what happened in that race car? We saw some smoke trail from it. What happened?
We just ran, the kind of the tape we ran on the car, we just kind of were too close to the cars in front. It's kind of a mistake there. I kind of pushed the temps a little bit too hard, and yeah, it's just a shame. I felt like we had a good car there, and just weren't able to go out there and capitalize on it tonight.
It's early in the season. I guess if you're going to have rookie mistakes, chalk it up early. But does that put any more pressure on you in the next upcoming weeks, knowing we have a race coming up next week instead of an off week in the middle?
Oh, certainly. We can go out there next week and prove to the field that we belong here, and with my team and everything, it kind of sucks to let those guys down, Clint Boy Racing and everyone, but it's just even more motivation to go out next week and do better. And I feel like we are set up to do have a decent run tonight for a rookie, and but we can go out and do even better next week.
Well, tough luck early. We wish you all the best the rest of the season. Come get them next week.
All right, thank you.
That's Blade Witt, driver the number 14, and his teammate on the racetrack, the 79 of Ryan Doucette, still has a little ways to work towards the front of this field, Evan, but still plenty early in this one, only 20 laps completed.
Yeah, I was going to wonder almost if that's going to be a concern as you take a look now at his teammate. If those two team cars for Clint Bowyer Racing are running the same tape, I wonder if Doucette's been informed, hey, your teammate blew up because we were a little bit aggressive on the tape. Turns out it wasn't damaged. They were just very aggressive on that tape, and maybe he's been warned to stay off a little bit of the cars in front. It had been a good start for Blade. Started 18th. It was up to 14th when he lost the engine. Going to finish all the way at the back, 40th in this race. And here's his teammate, Ryan Doucette, right now. Currently scored in 31st position, but up 8. So is making some progress under green flag conditions.
And look at the pack ahead of him as well. He's got a lot of good race cars up there, and I think he's methodically working his way up. Started 39th. He's in 31st right now, and waiting to pick up a couple of positions ahead of him because there's some aggressive two-wide racing back here in the back of the pack trying to position themselves. And we're about halfway, I think, or so, Evan, to potentially starting to have that window of pit road open just slightly. So these drivers, the fuel load's getting a little bit lighter. These drivers are going to see these cars and feel these cars dance around a little bit, and it's going to play into this strategy when it all comes to it. But Ryan Doucette right back here, and it might not be bad sitting back here and getting some laps in.
It might not be a bad idea. You can see though up the road, that's a lot of traffic. So I don't know what the battle was for him getting a bunch of those spots. We talked about the drivers that had fallen the lap down, probably gave Ryan, an immediate boost of a handful of spots. But if he wants to keep going forwards, he's going to have to get aggressive. We'll see if he decides to. He's got Schoenberg, Matheson, Busa, Ola, and Bose up the row all the way through P26. Looking a little bit further towards the front of the field with Nick Ottinger and some of the other drivers battling inside of your top 20 or so. And there's a bit of a side-by-side battle into the corner. 25 up top, that is Ottinger, trying to hold off the number 1 of Ashton Crowder, and the 25 will take that spot from him. That was for P10. The 25 got it for the moment. Jake Nichols wants some more. He'll put his Mode Motorsports forward to the bottom. So Crowder getting teamed up on right now, down 5 from the start.
And he might be one more as well because of 38 of Kerwin, not too far behind. But it looks like those two have got that battle subsided for the time being. But championship moments. We mentioned Zach Novak a little bit earlier on. How about Nick Ottinger just a couple of months ago? Seems like yesterday that he was coming through the pack on that late race sprint to the finish after what happened in front of the field to capture the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship. So we'll see how this 25 does throughout the race, Justin. But what's going on pit road?
Well, many teams are currently reporting overheating at the moment. In particular, Matt Busa and Malik Ray are currently having a clutch and coast to be able to try and conserve their cars and their temperatures. Take a listen to the corner. And currently these temperature issues are something that these drivers are trying to balance to make sure they don't have a similar situation to what we've seen with Blade Witt earlier in this race.
Interesting, Tim, that is not isolated to Witt, just to Clint Bowyer Racing, but a handful of drivers in the field. A little bit too hot on temps, likely related to that tape that they decided to go with on the front of the race cars. If you're already having to clutch it and coast at 28 laps in, I've got news for you. A long way to go. Going to be a rough one, especially if it stays green, to not give those things an opportunity to cool down under yellow. They're going to have to be very disciplined to make it through this race.
And if it's going to that first pit stop to try to rip off some of that tape, you're about halfway-ish on the run. You're probably a little more than halfway. And talk about clean air. There's Ryan Luza, and there's Keegan Leahy way up in front of him. Ryan Luza is tracking him down, Evan, but he's got some time to get there.
Yeah, Luza's been a little bit slower, a little bit off compared to Leahy last couple of laps. Leahy's last was a 33.118 compared to a 206 for Luza in second, but pretty clearly these are the first and second fastest cars on track. It's just a matter of, as we get, as you mentioned, to the second half of this green flag run, will that switch? Will lose and maybe get an advantage by hanging on to some of the equipment a little bit longer? There is your Daytona winner, assuming that he can maintain a top 20 spot in the points. He is in to the playoffs, second straight year. Of course, had a good opportunity to look for a second title last year, courtesy of that win in the opener. Quiet thus far, Tim, but plus 13 positions makes him, by my count, the biggest mover in the field so far. So quiet start, but efficient in that WR1 Sim Chassis Chevy for Junior Motorsports.
And in front of him, his roommate, Logan Clampett. So there's a little bit of action going on there. And Conti, doesn't matter if it's a roommate or not, going to try to go to the inside and pick up one more spot. But they both started outside of the top 20 and now continuing to work their way inside and try to pick up a few more positions as we work down the back straightaway. And the 41 there in that battle as well. The Stewart Haas eSport driver of Dylan Duval may lose one spot here.
In the 97 at Clampett, not able to get all the way around, so Duval's going to go elbows up and fight him for it side by side, 14th and 15th. And like we saw very early on with DeYoung getting stuck on the outside, number 97 going to win this fight out on the bottom. And it looks like now the 8 machine of Michael Conti going to try to follow him through as well and try to take that spot away. Duval's good on exit, but if you can't clear that challenger, Conti is going to go in there side by side with you, Tim, and he's going to be in a good spot.
And this is the point in the run where we're going to see some comers and goers. We're getting closer to what would be green flag pit stops as Conti gets right up ahead of the 41 of Duval. And next up there in behind them is the 16 of John Gorlinski. And I think I spot a little bit of left rear damage on that race car for the Wood brothers. The spin forward. And we saw him last week. His super speedway prowess is to kind of stay in the back and ride around and wait for everything to happen. But John is on it here this evening. He's up in the top 20, currently running 17.
Yeah, doing what he can and not letting that damage hurt him too much. He's been pretty consistent with Duval and even Steven Wilson and Zach Nichols behind him, not losing time. So down 4 from the start of the race, but doesn't appear to be that hindered by the left quarter damage on that number 16 Ford right now, running just inside of the top 20. Here's Conti now doing a battle with Clampett. They kind of work together to get the last couple of spots. Next on deck would be that one of Ashton Crowder, who's down 7 spots from the start of this race in the number 1 Ford coming out of the Toyota, I should say, coming off of turn number 4. So we'll see if the 97 and the 8 continue to play nice. Tim, in theory, if you're not fighting with each other, you're working pretty good and pretty easy for those two to communicate. All you gotta do is raise your voice a little bit and he'll hear you from the other side of the room.
As long as you don't upset the apple cart and get into them and do that good hard racing we all like to see on time to time, but it looks like it's cordial right now. Everybody's minding their P's and Q's, and I think everything is probably calm in the household as they battle with the one of Ashton Crowder coming up at a corner number 4 and coming down across the stripe with 35 laps completed and inching our way ever so closer to what would be the first green flag pit stop of the evening. But a great battle here as Conti continues to work Crowder.
Closing in on pit stops and a quarter of the way through this Homestead 200. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. It's been Keegan Leahy all the way. He leads at lap 36 from Homestead. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
This Coca-Cola Zero Sugar tastes mighty delicious.
Come on, buddy.
But
if you keep lying like this, you'll be a puppet forever.
It's the honest truth.
You're right. It's delicious.
I never lie.
I am a driver with a dream. And part of that dream is making all the doubters believe that my name belongs here. I may be new to some, but I am not to be taken lightly.
Oh, and now they're really going at it. Yeah, they are.
Because if you let your guard down, I will rise above. I am the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I am NASCAR.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And by DoorDash, proud sponsor of 2311. Well, back live from the Homestead-Miami Speedway, Keegan Leahy in control through 43 laps in the second round of this 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. In traffic, things not as calm as we see Brad Davies looking to the inside at Isaac Gahn. That's battle for 21st and 22nd.
Yeah, beautiful looking race car that Brad Davies has. He's trying to poke that nose to the inside of Gahn and pick up that 21st place position. Femi Olat, Nathan Lyon also a part of the battle back here as we continue to work under green, and don't want to jinx it, don't want to use the commentator's curse, Evan, but we are close to pit stops, and Brad Davies, speaking of, may be coming down onto pit road. Oh, that's not the way to do it.
Didn't even get a chance to mention it, Tim, but we talk about the uniqueness of Homestead. That is one of them, right? Pit lane entry, and then, of course, the exit through the access road. And Davies just did not get it load up in time and swiped the right-hand side of that car into the tire barrels. Also down pit road, Keegan Leahy from the race lead. He's able to get the pit road speed of 50 miles an hour without incident. So for a moment, new race leader going to be Corey Vincent.
And we're going to look at the 3 car. That is your leader, Corey Vincent. Let's ride on board with the leader as he works around Homestead-Miami Speedway. As we ride down into corner number 3 and 4, that is the 32 of former leader Keegan Leahy. We worked through these green flag pit stops here on lap number 45 into 46. Zach Novak, the last time I scored as your leader. Casey Kerwin coming onto pit road, as is Zach Novak. So that will put a new leader up on top of the board. And I firmly believe, Evan, at some point here, we're going to see somebody try to stretch this fuel. Try to go towards that 60, 62, maybe 63-ish mark, and try to run this tank dry and try to pick up some position. We always see it here at Homestead. I wonder who it's going to be. So as we continue to work around, Keegan Leahy has already completed his pit stop, and we'll start to see Keegan go through some of this traffic, goes to the inside of Mains and works around the number 2. And this is where everything starts to get a little bit intriguing. You have some slower cars in the racetrack trying to extend their fuel mileage and trying to make it a little bit further on their tank. They can go 60-ish laps when it comes to fuel, so plenty of laps for some of these drivers that are still out on the racetrack. And one of them that is currently leading this field, I believe, may be Bob Bryant. Evan?
Yeah, I'm showing him top of the board as well. So as the pit cycle works through, 6 drivers yet to pit, make it 4 because Alan Bose and Jake Matheson are on pit road this time through. So we're waiting on Bryant, Gorlinski, Schoenberg, and Ray to come down pit road, Tim. And we talked about the strategy. They're shorter than the number, and that's because, of course, kind of coming in at the 1/3 distance makes the most sense in looking for a 2-stop race, assuming this can stay green.
Yeah, but the way this thing is, you're going to go at least 2 stops, because if you go to that 60 number, you have to come back in at 120. If you come down at lap 45 or 50, you still come down at 90 to 100, and you still make it on 2 stops. For a guy like a Bob Bryant or a John Gorlinski or a Brian Schoenberg, some of the veterans of this iRacing game, and this is where you try to put that pit strategy to work. If we see a caution flag now, they're looking pretty good. Contingent on everybody else comes down pit road behind them under caution. So there's different strategies. And oh, by the way, Evan, Bob Bryant started 25th, Brian Schoenberg 37th, Malik Ray in 33rd. So they're trying to get some strategy here.
Yeah, Gorlinski, the only one who was, kind of towards the front, started this race in 13th. The rest of them, you mentioned, the 20s and the 30s. So they're certainly trying to bank that if they could maybe push it to the fuel max, maybe you catch a yellow with the 5 available sets of tires. So everybody who came down pit road took 4, so they got 4 left. And maybe you assume, hey, if I can push this an extra 10, 15 laps, they may still want tires. If I can catch a yellow, get a little bit lucky here, cycle through the field. But if it doesn't, of course, you can see just how much faster those cars are with fresh tires, Tim, going around them. It's a gamble, but like I said, if you're running in the 30s, I don't think there's any reason why not to. So I like the bold move from these drivers as we approach halfway.
And with those extra sets of tires that we have on pit road, I think you hit the nail on the head. If we do get a caution flag here within the next 5 laps or 10 laps before these tanks run dry in the cars of Bob Bryant, John Gorlinski, Schoenberg, Malik Ray, I think everybody's going to come down and take that set of tires, or what would be an extra set of tires per se, as Brad Davies tries to work up on the 77 of Bob Bryant and try to get one of his laps back, and that'll actually be putting him back on the lead lap. So he had that little issue earlier, but Brad Davies still on the racetrack and still making up some ground.
Doing what he can, and of course, if this all cycles through, Keegan Leahy, who rides 5th on track right now, will cycle back to the race lead. Currently has about a 2-second advantage over Ryan Luza, so nothing has really been gained or lost in that battle for the race lead. The race win overall, it's 5-6 right now. You're on board with Keegan Leahy. He'll actually start to catch those drivers shortly, Tim.
And the 32 of Keegan Leahy, he talked earlier about race pace. And I don't know why he was second-guessing himself right now, Evan, because you mentioned he's still got that 2-second advantage on there. So I think Keegan Leahy's looking pretty good right now.
He's in a good spot. He wants to cycle back to the race lead in this one. And while the action's still green, want to bring in some more faces into tonight's coverage from Homestead-Miami. Want to welcome in Joe Graff Jr. and Antonio Williams into the broadcast booth. Guys, thanks for giving us the time and chatting with us. And Joe, I'll go to you first. Just for everybody tuning in, if they don't recognize the name, tell us a little bit about your background.
So my background, I grew up going to a short track called Bethel Motor Speedway, watching my dad race. Grew up a race fan my whole life. Then we moved to Minnesota, and I had the opportunity to get into racing myself. So I raced Bandoleros out there a little bit, and then we moved back to the East Coast. And Bethel Motor Speedway became my home track as well. Raced Bandoleros there, as well as legend cars. Won a few track championships. Traveled the country in legend cars. Won a lot of races. Then I moved up to a modified at Stafford Motor Speedway, got Rookie of the Year there, picked up a win. Did that for about a year, and then I came down south and win ARCA racing the following year. Got an opportunity to run 6 races with Chad Bryant Racing. Kind of like my big break moment, and I broke my foot 6 days before my first race. So I opted not to get it put in a cast. Raced the first race, led some laps, had a really good showing. Unfortunately, we broke with like 15 to go on the last restart. We had a transmission fail, but still a really good day. Went on to Salem, had a really good day there as well. And then, like, my big opportunity came when I wasn't scheduled to run Talladega, which was the 4th race of the ARCA schedule in 2018. And the driver that was supposed to backed out last minute. So it was Tuesday, and we were racing Friday, and I found out that I was going to get the opportunity to go race Talladega. So I prepared as best I could. We ended up going there and finishing second in the closest finish in the history of Talladega and the ARCA Menard Series. So that was like my first big moment at that level. Then we went to the next race that I wasn't supposed to go to either at Toledo, finished 3rd, had a really good outing, and I was signed on for the whole year after that. Went on to win a race, be in contention to win a few of them. Had a really good year. The following year, I got an opportunity to be full-time in the ARCA Series with Chad Bryant Racing, part-time in the Xfinity Series with Richard Childress. Learned a ton. Had a good year there, and then decided to go full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Got an awesome opportunity with SS Greenlight Racing, hearing that Greg Galding wouldn't be returning that year. So went in with some high hopes. The pandemic definitely made it challenging on a lot of fronts. I know it made the business side of it hard, and it was just difficult as a rookie not practicing, going to all these tracks for the first time. But we definitely made the best of it. Had some really good races, had some lows as well, but felt really good about it coming into this year. This year I got the opportunity to work with Josh Wise and Scott Speed on the driver development side, so that's been huge. They've been a tremendous help, and we're full-time this year again with SS Greenlight in the 07. We raced our first 2 races at the Daytona Oval and the Daytona Road Course, and had some solid races put together, a good start to the season, and we're looking forward to building on that the next few weeks. Homestead's one of my favorite tracks.
And of course, to the other side of the sports world, to you, Antonio, first off, credit on the command and the command to start engines. It was a pretty good one. It's been real cool to see all the NFL players getting involved with NASCAR and even the sim world as well. And I think that the racing and football demographic crosses over a lot. But for those tuning in who maybe are first introduced to you here tonight, tell us a bit about yourself as well.
Yeah, so I grew up in New London, North Carolina, about 40 minutes north of Charlotte. And my family, my granddad specifically, loved racing. I never can remember a time where he missed a race. We actually went to Charlotte Motor Speedway when I was a kid. And, I'd go over, because he lived right beside me, I'd go over to his house every day. Anytime a race was on, he's sitting in his living room in the recliner watching the race. So I'd always sit with him and watch with him. So that, that just became part of something that I was used to, something that I became a fan of. I loved watching Tony Stewart race and guys like that. So coming up, NASCAR was something that it was just something part of my life. And having the opportunity now to be in the NFL and have a platform where I could let people know that I wanted to be involved with NASCAR, that's kind of how I got here. My granddad actually passed in August last year, and that's when I kind of wanted to do something to continue to honor his life, and that made me pursue something in NASCAR. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if an opportunity would even arise, but I sent out a tweet, and I said, if anyone knows some connections in NASCAR, please let me know. It blew up because NASCAR itself actually commented on the tweet, retweeted it, and said, we may know some people. And had all these teams hit me up. I was really grateful for that, but at the same time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like, what can I do? And one of the guys that work with me now, that I'm partners with now on the team with Joe, Nate, he commented on the post, and I don't know what made me choose to go and have lunch with Nate and get to know Nate. But I did, and we got lunch, and we talked. And I also have a sports psychologist in Buffalo that didn't really notice until, as I kind of told her I wanted to get involved in NASCAR. Me and Joe actually shared the same sports psychologist. So that everything just started coming together. The Nate connection, the Dr. Dez connection, and I got tighter with Nate. We continued to talk business. Eventually, I helped him. I gave him a lead on a deal that we ended up getting done, and it kind of took off from there, man. And now I realize, that's what I think I can do. As a NFL player, I can help bring in bigger sponsors for us, and I can help make the team better, and that's made me want to become an investor for Joe. And obviously I believe in Joe's driving ability. I believe that COVID absolutely affected him last season. As a rookie this year, it affected me. I didn't have a preseason. I wasn't able to get in the game and get used to the NFL level. So I know how that struggle is. So I knew what he could do and what he can do. And, that just made me feel confident in investing in being a partner with Joe.
I know that football and racing are two sports that really lend themselves to rivalries, right? And we've seen it on the field, we've seen it on the track, but also off in kind of a lighthearted and fun way. Tell us about your charity rivalry with Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, so as everyone know, my colleague, Alvin Kamara, running back for the Saints, he sponsored Ryan Vargas in this week's race. And as a welcome to NASCAR, to make the race a little more interesting, I figured we put a wager up, and we kind of called out his team, and we were like, whoever finishes first between the two drivers, the loser donates to their charity. It was fun. It was good to do, I think. And what people don't really realize is that no matter who won, the charity donation is going to go to both organizations. So it was a fun way to just draw a little attention and still get back to some charities and to kids that are needing.
We've seen a lot, of course, in the last year with everything happening in the world, Antonio. And one of them, of course, has been all of the positive discussion, I think, around calling out social injustices and trying to be like a positive force for change. And we've seen that in the NASCAR world. We've seen that as well in the National Football League. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, having kind of seen both of them firsthand.
Yeah, man. No, that's a great question. And the biggest thing is that obviously just as we continue to go as a society, we just got to continue to come together. And I think that's happening. I think we've gotten better with that. I think some changes that happened in NASCAR definitely allowed for people like myself to feel more comfortable joining the sport. And the biggest thing with adding diversity to a sport of any kind is to have people of that minority group in the sport, so other people that are fans of the minority group or that are fans of the sport can see people that look like themselves in the sport. I'm a 23-year-old young black man with dreadlocks, and I'm involved in NASCAR. There's a lot of guys that look like me in the NFL. When you get to NASCAR, there's not, And what I hope to do is inspire the younger generation and younger fans, and even older fans that have kind of took their hand out of NASCAR to come back. If I can somehow inspire people and be like, it's okay. This sport is changing. It's becoming more diverse, and it's going in the right direction. That's really all I can do. As I go back to what I said, the reason that I got into this was to honor my granddad. My granddad was the best man that I've ever known in my life. He was the fairest man. There's not one bad memory I have of my granddad. And for me to be able to inspire change in people in a positive way, that's something that could also help me and make me feel better as a guy doing this to honor him and to help progress the sport.
Well, certainly, I appreciate the opportunity, Antonio, to talk with you, Joe, as well. We appreciate your guys' time and certainly think all the voices we can have in this conversation and in the sport are for the best. So thanks for your time. We're closing in, meanwhile, at our race that is still caution-free on a final cycle of pit stops. Coming up next, Keegan Leahy still in control ahead of Ryan Luza and Chris Shearburn. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series from Homestead.
This Coca-Cola Zero Sugar tastes mighty delicious.
Come on, buddy.
But
if you keep lying like this, you'll be a puppet forever.
It's the honest truth.
You're right. It's delicious.
I never lie.
I am huge, a giant in every way. I am the sound of fury and the sweet smell of victory. I am the return of all the things you love about this amazing sport. Something that changes you from the very first lap. I am where seeing becomes believing. And believers know it is the return of a new season. I am NASCAR.
Live from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by ASUS, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Just on the cusp of that final cycle of pit stops as we await your race leaders to dive down to the pit lane and get enough fuel to go the distance in this Homestead 200. Leahy's still leading ahead of Lewis, Shearburn, Lowe, Vincent, your top five. And we're inviting you to join ASUS this month to build with love. Learn, connect, share with ASUS PC DIY. You can explore more at ASUSPCDIY.com. And Tim just wanted to mention a great partner in ASUS because I got myself a new ASUS laptop last week. Best in the market. It was an easy choice to support those who support sim racing. I want to talk strategy, though, Tim. We saw those handful of drivers stay out and thought that it was maybe just a bid for track position. Bob Bryant and Malik Ray, Tim, were able to make it to halfway, so there's a chance they may not have to come back down pit road at all tonight.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that, but what a deal iRacing is putting on. You can get 2 years of iRacing for 25% off. You can head to the iRacing.com/end-of-season sale and get that. That's on your screen right now. Get that now through March 8th. I know my iRacing subscription is getting near the end of life, Evan, so I'm going to go over there, I think, after we're done and re-up there. But the strategy that you mentioned, Bob went to 67, which is exactly halfway. Malik went a couple laps after to try to get insurance. I'm surprised they went that long, but I think this is going to play out into some strategy here because Bob Bryan is now back on the lead lap and trying to make up, well, a mile and a half on Keegan.
They weren't the only ones as well. John Gorlinski and Brian Schoenberg tried their very best to get to the halfway point. Both of them pitted just a little bit before it. So there may be a question on if Gorlinski and Schoenberg can go the distance. Malik Ray and Bob Bryant certainly could. There's no guarantee that even if they do, they can beat out Keegan Leahy to win this race, Tim. But we talked about the history of Homestead being a facility that likes to host some strategy. And it is full bore tonight. 4 drivers going off strategy. For those that are on, though, we've been out for about 38 laps. They'll be down pit road soon as we ride on board with the 18. And now we run on board with our DoorDash on board with Mitchell DeYoung. Started this race up at the front of the field on row number 2. He finds himself right now in that number 23 machine riding in 31st spot. But just watching Tim and kind of picking, where are these final couple of moves going to happen? Can this race stay green and go to the end? Corey Vincent has been quiet tonight, but he has been very efficient and is trying to reel in Taylor Hurst. That's the battle between 5th and 6th spot. Vincent has been better the last couple of times by, so we'll see if he's able to get there. And there's the difference. Old tires and freshies as Mitchell DeYoung will cycle his way through. He just came down pit road 5 laps ago. That's why he was way down in the running order. So I'd say the bank is open on that second cycle of pit stops.
His first pit stop came at lap 45. His second one came at lap number 80. So trying to use a little bit of an undercut to maybe gain a couple of positions in the long run, thinking big picture going to lap 134 under green. But Corey Vincent has had a great run today, as has the number 33 in front of him of Taylor Hurst. So the Dylan car is doing really, really well here within striking distance of a couple of top 5 runs before this thing is all said and done. There's our leader, Keegan Leahy, coming down onto pit road for what will be his final stop. Looked pretty good coming onto pit road.
Slight bit of a lockup, but those tires are coming off anyway, so I would call that pretty much right on the money. And once more, Leahy, one of the first drivers in from the top 10 in the pit cycle. So that'll hand things off to Ryan Luza for the time being. Talked earlier about his success here at Homestead 2017 race winner here. That one, of course, netted him his first championship in this series and also won this spring race here at Homestead last year. He'll immediately follow up with the trip to pit road at lap 88.
That may have forced his hand. Garrett Lowe going to follow him in right behind, so he will come down into pit road. And Justin, this is where the pit stops start to happen. These are the money stops, right?
Absolutely very important pit stops for these drivers. One of the main things Keegan Leahy emphasized, though, was utilizing the dirty air to his advantage. Take a listen. Now, Keegan Leahy had talked about the struggles with dirty air when passing some of the other cars on various tire strategies as well earlier in the race. The main emphasis, though, was for Ryan Luza to try and utilize the draft to be able to break away from Luza. They did that for more than 3 seconds. And the best point that was emphasized out was from one of their crew chiefs and Matt Bontempi before today, where getting yourself positioned to be able to avoid dirty air will be huge unless your car is on absolute rails.
And Tim, that's the pass for position right there. DeYoung, who pitted earlier, his teammate to the outside. Looks like that later decision better. Leahy's been on a rail, so even if the car at the very front of the field was concerned about some of the dirty air, you can imagine the challenges the drivers throughout the field have been dealing with. Novak comes down pit road. He'll give up the race lead, and in the blink of an eye, the pit cycle almost all the way through. You got Nichols, Wilson, Lyon, Busa, Matheson all diving to pit road. You're going to put a button on this pretty quickly, and then waiting for those drivers who went for the long stretch earlier to cycle to the front. Bryant, Schoenberg, Ray, now inside of the top 5. Those are all drivers who are trying to go the distance.
And it hands the lead over to the McLaren Shadow number 67 of Alan Bowes. Anticipate him to come down right here, and he will do so. Slides it off the bank, gets it woe down to pit speed, and the 67 will come to the attention of his crew. So that should cycle through a little bit back to Bob Bryant in the 77, and that will move the Kligerman Sport Valvoline Xerox number 77 back up to the top of the board. Now, we know after that first run, as long as he runs it the same way, Evan, he can make it the distance on fuel. We'll see if it ends up being a winning call or not, but currently at the top of the board for the number 77.
You can see the variance of Bob Bryant this time by. He has been out for 25 laps. Schoenberg behind him has been out for 31. So Schoenberg pitted 6 laps earlier than Bryant did on that earlier cycle of pit stops. As a dive down to pit road and getting serviced is Brian Schoenberg. So he feels like it's not going to happen. That 6 lap difference could have been the difference maker. He is in for service. So Bryant at the front of the field leads. Malik Ray is in second position. Not for long, though, as Keegan Leahy makes the move around Tim. So, Tim, even if these cars can go the distance, and that's a big if, and may not be a race-winning move because Leahy's cutting through the field like he's putting a hot knife through butter right now.
we mentioned that undercut a little bit earlier on, trying to get the leg up on your competitor coming down maybe a lap or two early, getting those fresh tires and getting that advantage on those. And they have plenty of tires in the pit. We talked about 5 sets of tires in the pits when we started this night. So there might be some strategy that Bob Bryant might be playing out here as he leads this thing coming up out of corner number 4. No sign of coming down pit road this lap. There he is right there on the screen, and focus, laser focus for the number 77 driver.
And it isn't necessarily win or bust, right? Bob started this race 25th position, so if he can finish ahead of that spot, I think overall a net gain, clutching it in the corners. Let's ride for a minute. And on board with the Leahy, up the road is Bob Bryant. You'll see that 32 Tim closing him at about 4/10 per lap at this current rate.
And as we ride on board, I think the race pace that he mentioned at the start of the night looks pretty good right now. And he's only got about a second and a half, and it continues to dwindle down as he chases down the 77 of Bob Bryant down the back straightaway. That car gets also bigger in the windshield.
Going back to that interview, Tim, a little bit earlier with Joe Graff Jr., I think we've about gone as many green flag laps in this race as Joe had sneakers on his wall when we were talking with him, working lap number 97 right now, on board with your defending race winner, Chris Shearburn, P3.
And he's actually got a battle here for position. Evan, as you see to the outside, you're going to see that 4 of Ryan Luza kind of inch out there to that outside and try to ride around the outside of the crew, number 36 of Shearburn. Great little battle here for position.
And Luza will win out in that exchange. Now on board with John Gorlinski, still with the left side damage. Look at this view. He'll get split inside and out. Vincent and Onger both for position. And Gorlinski can't happen but to chuckle just a little bit there as he'll fall to P12.
Yeah, still getting a good piece of the pie up there, though, battling for position and still trying to play that strategy out, trying to hang on. And we'll take a look at the driver number 4. That is Ryan Luza. We saw him pass Chris Shearburn a little bit earlier on a couple laps ago, and now he tries to chase down Bob Bryant, currently running in a second. And he's got some traffic in behind. A little bit of clean air, though, out in front of this number 4 for the time being.
I'm noticing he's leaning. You can see him turning his head into the corners as he rides the fence, at least down in the 1 and 2 end of the racetrack. Now Novak on board and to the inside of his teammate, Jimmy Mullis.
Looks kind of calm, too. I think when he's going down into these corners, he's got that comfort of his Richmond Raceway Esports teammate right behind him in the 46 of Mullis, and a little bit of clean air in front of him, and he's focused on that car in front of him, trying to run them down as they battle just ahead of him.
He made sure to get both his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and his eNASCAR Ignite Series championship trophies in the shot as well. Talking about drivers who know what the taste of victory is like, on board with Michael Conti, 2014 Series champion.
And Evan, he's about to have a battle on his hands because the 3 of Corey Vincent going to go to his left and see that number 3 kind of edge out there. That is a battle for position number 9, and right behind him is Nick Ottinger, and we'll take a little ride along with Casey Kerwin in the 38.
Casey, one of the first drivers to come down and kick off this most recent cycle of pit stops. So we'll see if he's going to be on the shorter end of that straw at the end of this run, as he rides in 14th position at the moment. Started this one in 17th, though, so for the moment he's up, and he really doesn't have any immediate challenge. We'll see if Clampett can close in from behind. Clampett has been better the last few laps, so I'm expecting that 97 to start to creep into that rear view mirror here in the next lap or two, battling for 14th on back.
Let's take a little drive with Matt Busa. He's currently running in position number 25. That is the 6 of Nathan Lyon ahead of him, and that is a battle for position number 24, and they've got a little bit of a ways ahead to try to catch up to that next battle.
Busa started 40th in the field here tonight after not taking a time in qualifying. He was the only driver not to, and started at the very back. He's nearly made his way halfway through the field, and now on board once more with the 3 of Corey Vincent with a Coca-Cola on board. And talking about all the changes that have happened in the offseason, Tim Graham Bolin over to Stewart Haas Esports. He's got the Smithfield Ford.
And not necessarily a battle for position, but trying to carve his way through traffic and get what he can at the end of this race. Currently in position number 37, and we saw this driver's teammate a little bit earlier. How about Jimmy Mullis in that Sunoco Richmond Raceway Esports number 46?
Mentioned he was just battling with his teammate a little bit earlier on. Novak has been able to pull up to 10th, so Mullis, the back end of that duo, in 12th spot, up 3 spots from where he started.
And he's got a little bit of that lean going on as well throughout those corners as he comes up out of turn number 4 across the line to complete one more lap as we work leader lap 108 here this evening at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Look at that little bit of a lean.
Had to flip myself around to get from his perspective. He is held but in turn left in the corner now with the 24 machine, and we checked it with a little bit earlier on in this race, and Nichols in 16th position right now in a battle trying to get around the 11 of Malik Ray down to his inside. Working hard on that wheel, by the way, to make that top work.
Yeah, there was a couple of close moments there as he tried to work his way through that traffic and now able to get by Malik, and in behind is Isaac gone out of the rear view mirror. So there's still a little bit of traffic to be worked here, but Nichols trying to make the most of it in this final stint to the finish.
Here's a 4-way battle for the number 7 spot. Corey Vincent's got it. Everybody else wants it. And the last few times around, it looks like Vincent may be good enough to pull just a little bit, and he wants it to be a 3-way battle. Ottinger's got his hands full with Zach Novak and Mitchell DeYoung behind in number 9 and 10 positions. Of course, we look back to last year's finale. Ottinger with a 4th in this race was good enough to secure the championship, highest finisher amongst those championship 4. Very consistent historically here at Homestead.
And then you look in behind him, another former champion in this series that had to kind of lock it down here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway in Zach Novak. So there's some familiar names here looking to pick up a couple of positions before this thing is all said and done. And there's still 24 laps to go. Not too far up the road from this battle is Taylor Hurst. So this could become a battle for position number 6 before this thing is all said and done.
And I was starting to think, Tim, that those battles may go all the way to the very top of the board. You can see your top 3, top of your screen. Still Leahy loses Sherburne. That has been pretty consistent all night long. But Luz at one point during this run had started to close the gap. At one point he was nearly 4 seconds off of Keegan Leahy. Nearly got it down to 2, but it has started to stretch back out. Leahy now comfortably 3 seconds ahead in the battle for the race lead as we watch this trio fight for 13th on back.
We saw on the onboard Jake Nichols kind of reel these guys in and work his way through traffic. Been impressed with the Mode Motorsports number 24 in these last few laps, but now he works up to Logan Clamp and he works up to Casey Kerwin. Kerwin currently occupies that position as we get ready to take another look at the battle for position number 4, and Bob Bryant going to lose one more spot by the looks of it. Going to be Garrett Lowe moving up 1.
The making moves for the driver of the 21 machine. Bob Bryant is the driver on the opposite strategy, has only pitted once in this race. He's on 46-lap-old tires compared to 25-lap-old tires to Garrett Lowe. So you're looking at, about a 20-lap difference. No surprise, number 21 is going to win out in that battle. And likely Taylor Hurst, likely Corey Vincent, maybe a few more to get the better of Bob Bryant here just because he's on the older tires. But again, with that strategy play after starting 25th, could end up, when it's all said and done, in the positive. One driver way to the apron on the back straightaway. That was Blake Reynolds. Think he got just a little bit loose off of turn number 2. There's no incident there.
Take a look at the WR1 Sim Chassis Junior Motorsports number 8 of Michael Conti. He currently occupies position at number 10, is trying to lock down a top 10 finish, but it may be in danger because here comes the DoorDash number 23 of Mitchell DeYoung. This is going to be a battle before this thing is all said and done. They've got 20 laps to decide it.
Very different starting places for these two drivers, Tim, in a race that has had no cautions up to this point. We mentioned right off at the top, historically, Homestead is a track that can lend itself to green flag racing like this. For a race to have no yellows through 115 laps to where these drivers are now, right? Michael Conti started 29th. He's up to 10th. And then Mitchell DeYoung started 3rd. He's down to 11th. So quite a different starting point for these drivers that find themselves battling with each other.
And getting near to the end of this run and getting to the near end, and the number 8 of Michael Conti still holding down that position, but it looks like back there they're going to be joined by another car in that 46 of Jimmy Mullis. JP, what's going on with the 46 Cam?
Well, Jimmy Mullis having a solid run so far today, up 3 positions from the starting spot to 12. Take a listen to this audio.
I mean, I'm happy because, it's a good point stay if it stays like this. It's just, I know I could have gotten a couple more. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you're thinking that way. Gotta maximize everything if you're trying to beat the best in the world. That's something,
Overall, a solid day for Jimmy Mullis. Has kept the car clean for the most part today, guys, in 12th position.
So you can ask for, right, in a race like this where it's kind of easy to maybe fall a little bit behind and maybe lose focus, especially for the drivers who are working the higher lanes around this track all night long. Be clean and be consistent over the course of a 200-mile race that is now inside of the final 20. Watching this door-to-door battle, that's up top and on the bottom for the 77 machine, as Bob Bryant will get passed by the 33 of Taylor Hurst. So Hurst winning out the fight for 5th.
And we'll see what Hurst can do to try to reel in Garrett Lowe ahead of him in the final few laps. And we'll see where Bob Bryant kind of shakes out here. Regardless where he ends up, I think he's going to end up in the top 10 somewhere. It's probably ahead of that 25th place starting position that he started the night with. And how about the number 36 of Sherburne? You're right on board with him, and he's got some company behind him by the looks of it.
Yeah, Ryan Ryan Luza wanted to close in on Keegan Leahy. He wanted to be on the offensive, but it looks like he may be on the defensive late in this race. Chris Shearburn reeling him in has started to close the gap between second and third position. That difference about a second flat right now between P2 and P3 on track. You're on board with that, the crew number 36 Chevy, as he tries to reel in Luza.
And there's that battle view, Evan, and if you want to talk about two drivers locked into this battle, and you can see a little bit of the lean of the head, they've got it going on right now as they battle for this spot with less than 15 to go.
I remember I raced him not too long ago at Homestead with Ryan Luza in a battle cam that didn't end well, so I think he's hoping he ends up on the positive end of this one. He is the prey at the moment, but has started to balance things out. Shearburn will be 2/100ths of a second faster one lap. That same interval goes in favor of Luza the next time through, so pretty consistent, these two right now, second and third. They got plenty of open racetrack to work with, though.
The downside to it is that they're losing touch to that 32 up in front of Keegan Leahy. They're having a great battle for position number 2, or at least going back and forth on the stopwatch and trying to one-up each other on a best lap, but they are quickly losing ground to the 32 of Keegan Leahy, who continues to impress with the race pace, not only on the short run, but on the long run as well, as we close in. Lap 123 being worked on the board.
Kind of at the moment where you hold your breath, at least if you're Leahy, right? Seems like the battle for the race lead decided. That interval now up to 3.3 seconds and growing. There's a lot of other drivers in the field who don't have the free time to hold their breath, like Bob Bryant, who's going to do everything he can to fight and scrap for whatever positions he can get. Could he hang on to a top 10 with 11 laps to go this time by, still in P6, but Corey Vincent is closing within a car length, and then just outside of view there, a lapped car, and then Nick Ottinger. So the 88 machine in that battle. Brad Davies, the Axe Chevrolet for Junior Motorsports, not for position, but Ottinger, Vincent, they are, and they are looking for a way around the 77. Bob's doing a good job, though, Tim, working multiple lines and trying to give them a little bit of that dirty air to make it as difficult as possible for him.
And he's going to have to pedal that race car at the end of it to make sure it ends up on fuel. And we got battles throughout this racetrack, Evan. There's plenty of points to fight for. There's plenty of positions to fight for. The big green egg, number 9, of Michael Guest, leading this pack with Busa, Lyon, and Bose. And Bose was up in front a little bit earlier on through the cycle of green flag pit stops, and now he's going to have to get up on the wheel if he wants a top 20 run.
Right off of the get-go in this race, I think we looked back and saw 3 wide at one point in a battle for around 20th position. So Michael Guest representing the big green egg colors for Jim Beaver Esports here tonight, ahead of Matt Busa for Mode Motorsports, Nathan Lyon a little bit further back for Roush, and Alan DeBose, Floyd McLaren Shadow trying to fight for impact battles. All 4 of those drivers came up positions from the start of this race. Still so impressed with Busa. Started 40th at the very back of the grid on 19 spots. He and Bob Bryant tied at the moment for the most positions gained. There's an onboard look with 1 car back, the number 6, Nathan Lyon.
And he's kind of in the middle of this battle. You'll be able to see it out of that rear view mirror. He has Alan Bose back there. And Malik Ray's a part of this fray as well. He sits in position number 24. There is a nice little shot of it there. You can look back in that rear view mirror and catch that McLaren Shadow number 67 of Bose. And Malik Ray's trying to hold on to this battle in the Space Station Gaming machine as well. There's some laps that are clicking away, though. If they want to get it done, they've got to get up on the wheel.
One of the new teams into this series for 2021, Space Station Gaming Racing, and both of their drivers right now working inside of the top 30 with Vicente Salas a little bit further back down as we go back down to pit road with Justin.
Keegan Leahy currently leading by 3 seconds. Let's take a listen to this audio from Keegan.
Yeah, if you weren't so loose that last run, I would have rather stayed out about 3 more laps, 3-4 more laps, but I didn't want to risk you losing any more spot and losing that gap we had, you know? It was changing constantly. If we would have stayed out, you would have been behind traffic. Then.
And for Keegan Leahy, been looking very confident from the get-go, started from the pole, and has been having dominant speed. Remember, it was at several of the Homestead races the past couple of years, where he's been one of the strongest long-run cars at this facility.
Doing everything he can, Tim, to fight, and try to hang on to this one. It has closed a little bit, the battle for the race lead, down to 2.9 seconds, but 5 laps to go this time by. You can almost taste it.
And this battle's pretty intriguing as well. Nick Ottinger to the inside of Bob Bryant. Bob was able to hold on to the back bumper of the 3 of Corey Vincent for a few laps, and I kind of figured the tires kind of leveled out and Bob would be able to pick up that spot, but he quickly fell back after a few laps to the 25 of Nick Ottinger. And back in there's the Richmond Raceway eSports car of Zach Novak sitting in position number 9. So there's still one more position potentially for Bob Bryant to lose, but he is up on the wheel these last couple laps. He's able to get in the slipstream, get a little bit of that dirty air per se, Evan, and hang with the 25. So this might help him a little bit in the final 5 laps.
Yeah, just try to work this out and try to, use whatever you have. When he was the lead car of this group, you could see him going high to low, maybe trying to make them go the long way around, so it was harder for them to kind of establish that position. And now that he's in the middle, try to get a little bit of draft off of the car in front of you or try to block out that car behind you. He is the lead car on this strategy, and I believe, with the exception of Malik Ray and John Gorlinski down in 25th and 27th, the only one who is stuck to this one-stop strategy. So by far and away the driver who has executed this one the best.
Yeah, he's done a great job this evening holding his ground and putting a good spot up on the board for Kligerman Sport. He's going to potentially come home here with a top 10 run if he can keep this thing in the top 10 of these next couple laps and maybe keep Zach Novak in his rearview mirror. But we're closing in on the final couple of laps of this race. This has been a very interesting race, dynamic pit strategy. And Keegan Leahy, that lead is shrinking, Evan, but I don't think Ryan Lewis is going to get there.
It inches to 2.6 seconds. This time by 2 laps to go for the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Novak trying to work the outside to steal a P8 from Bob Bryant. Leahy looks up the road, Tim. A little bit of lap traffic that he has to deal with. Looking for his first win of the year.
And he's got that advantage back to Ryan Lewis as they work through. And there's Keegan Leahy. Did he crack a smile there, Evan, as he comes out of corner number 4? He's going to see the white flag, and we've got one to go.
White flag presented by iRacing, final time around from Homestead-Miami. You ask anybody, Tim, who is one of, if not the best driver in this series without a championship? I think that answer is almost always Keegan Leahy. He's won at least 2 races a year in the last 3 seasons. He has been oh so close, and could this strong start to 2021 be a sign of things to come? Final time at turn 4. Keegan Leahy, your 2021 winner at Homestead. And having a little bit of fun with it. Career win number 9 for Keegan, 2.2 seconds. Final margin of victory atop Ryan Lewis and Tim, who just closed it in there, and looks like through the field, for the most part, they're single file through the stripe.
When we saw Keegan Leahy there, we saw that fist pump, we saw that celebration, but I think there was almost a little bit of a sigh of relief as well. The strategy worked out. We were able to put it into victory lane, and look at this slide, and is he going to get the wall? Oh boy, oh, we don't need that car now, right? We don't need to bring it back next week.
That's when that toe comes in handy. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, Tim. He sits, talking about stats, 6th on the all-time wins list, now just 1 behind Kenny Humpy with 10 total as he gets his 9th here tonight. And you'd think 8 previous times is enough burnout practice, but that one didn't go as planned. The car was clean for the first 134 laps, and that's all that matters.
It takes 2311 Racing to victory lane for the first time this season, and he's gonna have this one in his pocket for a while, because this should put him into the playoffs as long as he can get into that top 20 in points. There are your top 10 on your screen, Evan.
Ryan Lewis and Chris Shearburn, your top three for most of the night, and then a big gap back to Garrett Lowe at fourth position. How about the duo of the Team Dillon Esports Chevys for Taylor Hurst and Corey Vincent, fifth and sixth position? William Byron Esports gets Nick Ottinger in there for seventh position. Bob Bryant goes for the one stopper, gets a P8 after all, holding off Zach Novak, who comes home in ninth, and Michael Conti, your Daytona winner, was P10.
Mitchell DeYoung tried to undercut a little bit on that final run, finishes in 11th. Jimmy Mullis in 12th. Casey Kerwin comes home in 13th with Jake Nichols, Logan Clamp at top 15. Isaac Gaughan in 16th place. Dylan Duval 17th. Stephen Wilson, great run to 18th place. Femi Olat to 19th. And Michael Guest, your top 20.
Back half of the field in this caution-free contest from Homestead-Miami boosted Nathan Lyon, Alan Bowes, Ryan Doucette, and Malik Ray, your top 25. Jacob Matheson and teammate Zach Nichols come home 26th and 28th. John Gorilinski in the middle of that Williams Esports sandwich, 27th. Ashton Crowder in the number 29 spot, and finishing in 30th there was Vincente Salas.
You got Brian Schoenberg, Brad Davies, one lap down at the end of that one. Bobby Zielinski in position number 33. Garrett Maines, Ray Alfala, Derek Justice, Graham Boland, Blake Reynolds. Blade Witt had that motor blow early, finished 39th, and Kane Cook in 40th.
To look top to bottom at your Coca-Cola full race results here tonight for the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, a caution-free affair and our second different race winner in 2 weeks of this 2021 campaign, to the point that you, Tim, touched on temporarily. I don't think that there was going to be any doubt that Keegan was going to get this done anyways, but courtesy of that win, and again, barring anything catastrophic, because the top 20 benchmark should be well within range for that 2311 racing driver, Keegan Leahy books his ticket to the postseason. We're going to be filling up those spots. I'll tell you what, this year we expanded the playoffs, Tim, and made it a little bit bigger. 10 drivers allowed in. We've already burned up 2 spots with 14 regular season races. Could we possibly see more race winners than spots?
We could very well see that, especially with the field that we have and the competition that we have in this series. And Keegan Leahy gets it done early, and he can breathe a little sigh of relief. We're down here with our winner, though, Keegan Leahy. From start to finish, Keegan, you go to victory lane. It wasn't easy, but let's talk about that pitch strategy at the end, trying to manage that clean and that dirty air and trying to undercut those guys to try to take away this win. How big was this pitch strategy, and what lap to come down?
Yeah, first of all, awesome to talk to you, Tim. Miss talking to you here in the booth. If you haven't noticed, the aerodynamics, like getting behind somebody, you lose a lot of time. So I was just trying to play the pit strategy to give myself the most clean air possible. So, you know, with a long green flag race like this, 134 laps green, losing 100th of a second a lap adds up to a lot, right? So just these little decisions I made, like when to pit, how to pass lap traffic, that's what made the difference, and I only won by a couple seconds.
This win is huge, though. When we talked to Michael Conti, he said it was that sigh of relief. He can kind of do the strategy a little bit different going forward in these next couple of races, knowing that you got that playoff ticket. How big is it a sigh of relief for you, knowing that you get this win here tonight and you can play stuff a little bit different?
Yeah, as long as I stay in the top 20, I think is the rule. I got a ticket to the final 10, so definitely happy about that. I was not expecting it this race. This was the last race I expected to win at. We are not the fastest car this week. We had the best qualifying setup. That's what got us up front. And luckily there wasn't any cautions or anything to shuffle me back because I wouldn't have won this if I was starting 10th or something.
So now that that pressure is off, do you have a win total in mind? What do you try to do in these next couple of races to try to rack a few up?
I don't even know how many wins I have now. I think I'm at 1, right, for this season. So I'll definitely be going for more wins. I'm pretty sure we get 3 bonus points for every win to start the playoffs. So, you know, that maximizes my chances of getting into the final race of the season, the championship 4. So more wins would be good. I'm not going to back down at all. I got to keep my skills up. I got to keep the setups good. I got to keep putting in the effort and keep my motivation up. So there's no slowing down from here. We'll get a few more.
And you don't need the car next week from the burnout, right?
Oh, you didn't see that, did you?
We definitely saw that. Congratulations.
Thanks, Tim.
That's Keegan Leahy, our winner this evening at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, and we're going to go with Ryan Luza now to position number 2. And Ryan, trying to reel in Keegan Leahy at the end. It looked like you guys were making some progress, but just came up a little bit short. What else did you need tonight?
I don't know. I mean, we were really close speed-wise. I think it just came down to who had the clean air. The first pit stop, I came out like right on his bumper, and if I could have cleared him, maybe I could have taken off with the clean air. But that's kind of what the race boiled down to, was who got out of pit road in front of the other. But I mean, honestly, it kind of sucks to come away with the second, because the whole one in, you're in thing now. So getting P2 just feels, I don't know, just like you're robbed, kind of, because you could have won and just been done for the rest of the year. But a lot better than I expected to run. I think I was up till like 6:30 in the morning yesterday trying to work on this thing, because we were not good last night. So we definitely made it a lot better, and like I said, way better than we expected to run. So really, really happy with that.
Daytona's kind of the wild card. We head in here, you get a good run at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Momentum-wise, how big is that, knowing that we're back at it next Tuesday?
Is it next Tuesday? Oh, that's not good. I didn't even know. But yeah, it's huge. Just to know that the car is close, because this is our first real race on this build. So it's always really rough early on in the year trying to find that speed and have your team break out early in the year, which is what we've typically done these past couple of years. We always started off the season really, really hot and able to grab us some wins. So hopefully we can stay on that trend. Really want to get locked in here, sooner than later. So just going to be working real hard trying to get in victory lane.
Well, it's a second place finish. Good momentum. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Just have to thank XSET again for picking me up, Ghost Lifestyle, and all their sponsors for supporting me.
Well, there you go. There's Ryan Luza, another podium finish, and Evan, a great run. And we'll chat with Chris Shearburn here in the number 36 car with the crew on that car. And Chris, a great run here this evening. It's third place. I know you wanted to get that win, but are you happy with the run that you had tonight at Homestead?
For sure. I mean, honestly, I didn't really think we had the greatest race pace tonight anyway. So to qualify up front and stay there and get a good top 3 out of it is definitely a plus. It definitely exceeded expectations for this race for sure.
Got the win last season in the season finale. Another podium finish here. What is it about this 36 car on Homestead-Miami Speedway that makes it click?
I mean, I've always liked this track. I don't think I really had this package on this track figured out the greatest. My win last season, I was about a 15th place car. It's a good track for me, but I think I'm missing it a little bit on this package. But it's just a fun, racy track. I don't think there's anybody that hates coming here.
What are we going to do next week to put this thing in victory lane and get that ticket into the playoffs?
We got to find some speed, first of all. I don't think we can. I know it didn't show up, but I mean, we had clean air most of the race, so that made the biggest factor there. And we had good pit stops and just stayed up front all race. But we got to find a little bit of speed and race pace. I think our qualifying speed is obviously pretty good. We just got to find a little bit in race. And I think Vegas is going to be a little bit more like a drafting track, a little bit more aero involved. So we'll have to probably do a little bit more drive testing and stuff. So we have some work to do in about a week.
We'll get at it. Congratulations on a top 3 run tonight.
All right, thank you.
That's Chris Shearburn and Evan. The top 3 seem optimistic. Keegan Leahy going to victory lane. We caught that burnout. He didn't think we caught that one, but a great run for him. And you can kind of hear in Ryan Luza's voice, he wanted that win and you're in ticket. I think there's a little bit of pressure on driver number 4.
Feeling it, right? There's a lot of big names getting race wins early in this year. Tim getting those locked-in spots. Again, I might have to use the air quotes for locked in because we're going to be sorting them by the time we get to the end of round 14 by wins and then points. We could see more than 10 different race winners, but it certainly is putting the pressure on some of the other drivers when big names are getting wins out of the way early. Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race tonight, Tim. I would almost argue it's consistency, but you'd have to rewatch the whole race. Let's put it down to executing the pit stops and the strategy. He stayed mistake-free, decided to make those pit stops at the right times, didn't really open the door for anybody.
No, he did not. Keegan Leahy absolutely was flawless on pit road, was able to execute those pit stops, as you mentioned, and come back out and be able to hold that race pace. He said that at the very start of the night, that would be the key to victory, and he was able to hold it just enough to take home that victory. Ryan Lewis and Chris Shearburn may have been closing a little bit at the end, but it was Keegan Leahy rock solid throughout this thing.
And consistent finishes. Well, we stay on the intermediate tracks, Tim, but you heard it there from Chris Shearburn. It is a different challenge in 1 week time when we head to the entertainment capital of the world and to the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Yes, it's another 1.5 mile track, but they could not race any differently compared to one another. Totally different challenge on deck for round 3.
And we've seen some surprise winners here before in Vegas, so I am fully expecting somebody, and you can use any cliche you want to, Evan. Roll the dice and put all your chips on the table and go all in. Somebody is going to come away with a win and potentially a playoff ticket.
And I promise you, we'll use them all next week as
Absolutely.
well. Good news is you've only got to wait 1 week for us to get back at it. But until next time, that's it for us here tonight for the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. So on behalf of our entire team, for everybody at NASCAR and iRacing, our 23-person team downstairs, Tim, for making this happen, are really just such a big part of putting these shows on. And I can't wait to get to Vegas. 2 different winners for the opening 2 weeks. What's next? We've got a long way to go this year, but it's been a great start.
Indeed it has. We've seen 2 caution-free races on this series, and we expect this out of the best oval drivers in the world when it comes to iRacing, so they're going to have to continue that trend next week at Vegas. But isn't this your virtual home track coming up next week? Do you got any plans for us?
It is. I don't know what we're going to pull out, but I think we need to come up with an over-under on if that caution-free streak can continue past round 3. I think if you say it does and it does, that have to pay out a lot of money. It's Vegas after all, right?
Yeah, I think these drivers are going to put in that testing, but there's only 1 week in between, as Sheeran mentioned.
And we'll catch you next time out. Congratulations to Keegan Leahy, your race winner in tonight's Homestead 200. Remember, we are back in 1 week's time, March the 2nd, for the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. For Tim Terry and myself, Evan Pasoko, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time from Las Vegas.